So, gentlemen, post-retirement for sports persons in Kenya. We watched films, we watched documentaries about people who've represented the nation in various sports, and they're not doing too well. How is it that some of them seem to have their lives in check, and others seem to have just totally lost it completely, and others are having issues dealing with the reality of their lives, and yet others are just successful?
Thank you very much. I think we have set very good structures for what we have managed to do. Well, talking on athletics, and as I said, for me, I was barely 19 years old. I went to Japan. And Japan gave me a lot of knowledge, planning ahead of my career. And after that, I think I was able to push along and manage myself in all the things that I'm involved in. Running being the center of it. We have seen over years, just like yesterday, the other day after 33 years, we have seen Henry Rono come back from the US for the same reasons. He's a legend. And we really need to think about what we should do for the legends, because legend is just a name that you can't proclaim, but commended. And that commendation does not make our youth get interested.
We're facing today in our sports situation, but you, sir, seem to be doing okay.
Well, I'm not so sure whether I'm doing very okay, but I must say that, you know, sports is a very short career. Most of us will not last more than 15 years at the maximum, at the top. Maybe 10 years. And we have to prepare ourselves that, you know, this is a career that you go into knowing that it's very short term. It's very, very, you know, a small part of your life that you'll be involved in sports actively, where it may count. And then you have to prepare that you have another 50 years or 40 years or more plus on where you will not be playing your sport, and you have to find something else to do. So, you know, for me, I think the difference is that I grew up basically knowing that, one, sports is for fun, and number two, you play sports because you love it, not because it will necessarily make your life or your career or anything else, but that you have to have another skill, which is what you will look for as the career that you basically follow. And not that you don't take sports seriously, you take it very seriously. But you have to know that there's something else apart from sports that will keep you going. And that starts from school level, you know. You go to school, make sure you get your grades, make sure you pass your exams, make sure you get some qualification of some sort. And in my case, I was able to do both of them successfully, at par, side and side by each other, from primary school to high school to university, and still to turn professional and still play and still study again. And then eventually, there comes a time when your mind is tired of playing and you think, okay, I think I'm getting the itch to do something else now. Because you can't just do sports. I don't think really sports alone on its own is a good thing. You have to think of something else. And that's how it goes. If you start that way, your career, and then by the time you've done your 10 years, 15 years, you have something else on the side that you can do. And then to avoid all those problems you get, all those stories we hear all the time, somebody plays, has a successful career, international, and then retires and finds he has nothing more to do. And it's a very common issue. Actually, even abroad, everywhere in the world, it's a very, very common. Every sportsman reaches that stage where you can't play anymore. This is what you've been used to for like almost all your life. You dedicated almost all your hours on training and playing, but now what next? You can't play anymore. You're injured or you're old. There are other better guys who come under you. So I think for me, the first thing is it's important that each sportsman understands that your career is very short and it's limited, very limited, and start preparing from an advanced stage, straight from school, that you will do something else. And you only do sports as a side-by-side thing. And where I digress from my colleague, Mr. WAKIIHURI, is that, yes, the government can help you, or the government should help its legends. But, you know, a legend who has no skill, who has no qualification, may be very difficult to help. And again, there are those who have even made money, but somehow because they have no skills in management, no skills in financial procurement and all that, they waste it. So it works both ways. You know, it's not an easy life, but my view is that, you know, sports is supposed to be a very good, it's a very good slave, but a very bad master. If you allow sports to run your life, it can make your life very hard. But if you're in charge of your life, then sports is easy.
Isn't it ironic that a lot of athletes who get to go abroad to train usually go on sports education scholarships, which means that they're going for education as well as to train in the particular sport.
Yeah.
So you would think that with that kind of two-pronged approach, they would have a life plan, as it were.
Yeah, they do that. Like, yeah, it happens like that, but it could not be the end results of that. Because depending on the scholarship itself and what is required for the school, some of these scholarships just give you an opportunity to participate in the sports. But then you end up losing upon your education. And looking at that, probably, then we would want to look at, for example, like if I participate in the Olympic Games, what do I get? I get a medal, and of course I get a diploma that comes with it. This diploma does not qualify me, it is just a paper, but yet it is from the highest sports discipline. If then that could be transformed or give you a score, a kind of a score, that you can also go back to school, because not all athletes manage to get scholarship because of the talent, but some of us get to come back to school after their career because they have gotten the money and now they can pay for their school fees. But others do the other way around. So if we look at that balance, probably it's an area that we need to look at and see that as an athlete, once you get the scholarship, what are you actually going to study for? Because it's a sports scholarship. And then at the end, how is that going to help you into pushing your life forward? Are you going to become a coach? For example, like for myself, if I want to become a coach, I have to go probably to KU and do some courses to get a certificate, while I still have a diploma from the Olympics or the World Championships. Or I'll be excused if it's a IAAF level 1 or level 2 course that I have to take. I will probably be excused or given leeway that since I'm an athlete, I don't have to go from basics. I'll enter in between to be certified by the IAAF for me to become a coach. Then that doesn't still get you through. I have to go to probably Athletics Kenya and register as a coach, which again has to go to the registrar to get approval for me to just become a coach. And then licensed. So as you see, there's a lot of structures that are set, but they are a bit cumbersome for us who have already been there and we have achieved what we have achieved.
So would you advocate for institutions like Athletics Kenya to run courses on financial management for their athletes, to run courses on probably business investment opportunities for their athletes, to get them involved in various initiatives? Like, from what I understand, what you're saying is that you would like your diploma, from athletics to sort of like be some kind of credit towards some kind of educational institution.
Which I can come back again, like after I finish my career, I can come back and enroll in school and do sports management. I can do business management. I haven't that opportunity. If that diploma allows me or is recognized in the country. We have there, I think, the Kenya Certificate Authority, which is supposed to authenticate that process. And as much as we are going to sit and say that athletes are unable to manage their finances, we must give them options because they have done what they have done for this country. And when you don't have an option, you end up dealing with the issues by your own self. You say, okay, I've worked very hard, let me get into business. You don't have any directive. But most of all, I think the most important point would be all of us, the stakeholders, from the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Sports, IAAF, CAMID, FIFA, all these sports bodies to come together and understand that, yes, our athletes are participating in these world events. So what is the value that that certificate or that performance will give these particular athletes? If this medal gives this much glory to the country in the world and it's recognized all over the world, but unfortunately, that cannot sustain this particular athlete's life. So if we can find a way of all of us to understand that, we pick certain values within the PE or physical education, and we know that when this particular athlete gets an injury and he or she cannot participate anymore, can she then come back to school and be able to learn the skills that are required at that level? Because I don't think there is any time that is limited for you to go back to school.
Now, both of you benefited from scholarships of some sort,
Yes.
I'm assuming. Edward, was there ever a time that when you were in university, it was directly tied to your ability to play rugby?
Not in a sense, because my scholarship was not based on my having to play rugby. Actually, just happened that I happened to be taken up with the professional side, and I made it as a condition that I be allowed to study on the side. But there was really not much time that I had to first pass my exams for me to play. Actually, I had to make the time to play, even though I was studying. So in my case, it was a case where I said, it's a part of a condition of my contract that I be allowed to study. I won't miss any training sessions as much as I can, but I study. But knowing the American model, which I think is usually the best example I'll always give. In America, you go and join the college system, you must maintain the grades. Otherwise, you fail, you start losing out, and they take you out of the scholarship. But that gives you skills, not just necessarily in sports. Some of those courses are business management. Some of them are even in law, whatever it is you want to do. And that's, I think, the thing that we need to understand. It's not just getting the qualification in sports alone. It's important that you get a qualification that will help you. Let's face it, in Kenya, sports doesn't earn your living. You may get the highest IAAF certificate, the highest rugby certificate for coaching, but you come to Kenya, getting jobs that will pay you, even in sports arena, it's tough. It's tough. So guys have to understand, go for courses that will help you away from sports necessarily, not necessarily sports,
Yes.
Otherwise in Kenya, sports doesn't pay.
Even our own foreign coaches that come in to train national teams,
Yes.
they don't get paid.
They don't get paid, yes. And I don't think there's a lack of coaching courses. These guys have done all these courses. And I know they're held. Every few months, I know athletics have their courses, rugby have their courses, and it's something that is ongoing. But the question is, even after having these qualifications, how does it help you, So it's sad that in our country or environment, sports doesn't really pay.
But sports is talent-based activity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it's just the same as like if you're a musician or an artist. So you mentioned something very interesting, Douglas. You mentioned the fact that sometimes it's not about athletes not managing themselves well. What you said was very, very key, because you said management. There's some athletes who've got good managers, who've
Yes.
got good management, who actually care for the athletes and they manage them well. And they actually give them the proper direction when it comes to investment opportunities and the like.
Yeah.
So is the problem bad managers, per se?
No, I don't think it is bad managers. Most managers, how do they get paid? They get paid because they manage you as an athlete who is earning money. Like if we take an example of Eliud, the manager is very happy today. But the minute Eliud stops running, things become different, because we do not have a contract of managing an athlete after your career is over. You are left alone. You're left to think of what to do and how to do it. Nobody tells you how. And that is one of the problems. I can give you a good example that when I was running, I was sponsored by Essex, which has been very good to me for the last 30 years. I've never changed the apparel line for 30 years plus. And that is because of the way they have treated me. They even still send me stuff, even today, that I don't run, which is very good. But what happens is that probably you'll earn from $50,000 per year times 4 years per contract. So you'll end quarterly, which is probably $25,000 every quarter, which is good money. If you win a major event, you'll get about $10,000 plus the prize money of the event you win. Us, when we used to run, like the World Championships, we never had, there was no money. It was just a medal because it's a championship. Now, the Olympics, like the World Championships in Doha that we just saw, the gold medal is $60,000. Yes. Silver is $30,000. And I think bronze is about $15,000. And if you break a world record, you have $100,000 plus. Okay? So that is really good revenue that is coming in. And that is what most of the managers are interested in. We, as Kenya, where we come from as athletes, we develop ourselves and learn a few things to get ourselves into the running, into playing rugby and all that before we are scouted. Other areas in the world, they go to academies, they are scouted, taken to the academies. In the academies, you are taught all those disciplines. You have money, you have a car. So as you play, the need for acquiring property does not really arise that much, though it's there. But you can see the difference now when you come from the village. And one of the things that we always pass to the young ones, because they'll come to me and tell me, Douglas, I want to run, I want to be. And you tell this young man that, my friend, you are going to be probably poorer than you are today if you start running, unless you're sure you really want to put 100% and what it takes for you to make a difference or to be a champion. Because it's not that easy.
It's about the heart, about the passion, about the drive.
And in the first instance, you have to sacrifice, as he says. You have to spend your own money to even get to a stage where you may be seen by somebody, which people don't understand, the young generation especially. They come into the games thinking, oh, I should just walk into the pitch and I'm suddenly so good, and within the next day I'll be paid money. But the reality is, before you're even spotted, you spent almost all your money, your little money, going for training, make yourself available.
Yeah, because practice makes perfect.
Yes, that's it. And in the first instance, nobody knows you. Only God knows you're good. So until the rest of the world knows you're good, you have to spend money on yourself. And that's a difference, I think, with the young generation now.
If we look at education, we are really pushed by our parents to go to school and learn and pass exams. But nobody ever tells you what happens after. Nobody shows you how to get a job. It is all by your own that you must struggle and fight to just get a job. And that, I think, that is one of the difficult part, for when a young person is growing up, having no coach, and you find a coach here, no mentor. And I think those are, some areas that we really require. Again, we have come this far. We have worked so hard. And we don't have a home to go to as we retire. And the young athletes are coming behind us. And for sure, most parents will say, we really don't want to see what we see when all those news comes. One day, you are the brightest star. The second day, you are probably just living.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So if I may, we need a kind of an approach whereby you have Ministry of Sports, possibly an organization like Kenya International Sports Film Festival, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, to sit down and come up with some kind of definite plan forward. Because why I mentioned Ministry of Health is because I can imagine that just as a normal kawaida mwananchi, when I'm disappointed and I feel the way I feel, how does an athlete feel with all that extra adrenaline? It must really weigh on you heavily, and that also affects your mental state.
It is the very moment you start quantifying our national anthem that was played some time years back, and ask yourself, how much is it worth?
And you're carrying the flag.
Should I really struggle now to live my life along the line this way? Because I don't think it is that much expensive to take care of an athlete after retirement compared to what that particular athlete has done in the world for this country.
See, even the program that people talk about, mentorship. I mean, I heard the cricket guys talk about, the attitude of the younger guys now, very different. And that, by the way, is the same in almost every other sport. Even in my sport, rugby, even in football, even in basketball, I hear the same complaints. Attitudes have changed. The current generation now see things differently compared to those who were there in the 70s and the 60s, who played the games for sports, for fun, you know? Yes, this generation now thinks there's money. I just need to walk into that pitch, there's money. But they have no mentors from the past to guide them that this is how things are supposed to be done, you know? So it's the same thing with athletes who approach a retirement. It would have been good if there was a system where the past guys who have been there in the past, who have perhaps succeeded in other things, who've transited into other lives, would also be present to guide these guys. If the ministry had a department, for example, yeah, for mentors, where the likes of Mr. WAKIIHURI and all the other stars who have been there in the past will be going out to give talks to the current generation, so that they understand sports is about sacrifice. Before you make it, you'll have sacrificed so much. Even the little money that you had, we used to spend. I remember spending my last 5 bob taking a bus because I know I'll walk back, or vice versa. You know, that's how I used to think. I have only 10 bob in my pocket. I have to go training all the way to Kasarani and back. What do? Young guys have to be taught. This is what it's all about.
There you have it. There you have it.
I think
Harsh reality.
to add on that, when a country is glorified with sports, we need to have an instrument to honor the athletes, so that value can interest the up and coming. When you call me a shuja, that is just a verbal word. You call me a shuja, that we all understand what a shuja is a brave person who has done so and such a thing. But there is no instrument, because when we win the games or the marathon, you are given a medal. That is the instrument that makes you a world champion, depending on that occasion. All right? So that needs to come in play. Because the only issue is that we cannot proclaim to be shujas. We are commended for that. So unless we start commending those shujas and give them an instrument to show that this guy has really worked hard. We have read over in history what has gone. Probably there's no great person in history we don't know. We are not known basically because we don't have our stories that are being told. Our youth do not, they just hear, or you ask somebody, do you know this particular person? They say, oh, no. You see, but so because that kind of history. And I think yesterday I had they say that yes, we must remember, don't forget. So if sports is a reason for a country to celebrate, then there is no reason that country should not celebrate their legends.
And on that note, thank you very much, Douglas WAKIIHURI, SS, and Mr. Edward Rombo. And just quick parting shot, the way forward.
I think first is to appreciate the Kenyan public for all their support they have given to we athletes in whatever hardship that we've gone through. Most of them probably don't understand what we go through in day-to-day, waking up and struggling to be on the line, to represent and to carry our flag up there. There's a lot that has been done, but the best part is when you see all the spectators coming out in numbers, spectating and appreciating and cheering for us in that. That is what unites us all as Kenyans. I think that one is something that I must give appreciation. Over the years that I've done, who I am today, it is not because of myself. It is because of those hands that I hear clapping. It is because of those voices that keep calling me every time I'm on the road. They keep cheering me. I think that's one I want just to say thank you and keep it up. And the other point is, if you ever see a young person who has a talent and you believe you don't know what to do, who to do, give us a call and let us see this young man, because we can change that young man's destiny.
Thank you, Douglas. Edward?
On my part, I'll go back to mentorship again. And this is a lot to do with people who, after they've done their best, they've performed, they've achieved things, that story has to be told, as Mr. WAKIIHURI has said. That history has to flow. And the best way is that all these ex-great sportsmen should be mentors. They should be taken up as mentors. The Ministry of Sports should adopt, they should have a department where they have all these people somewhere, taken to schools, taken to clubs. I believe every organization in Kenya, every company in Kenya, should have at least one sportsman to come and give talks on how it is to sacrifice and to work hard. I mean, sports people have a story to tell. Kipchoge's story, I mean, that could be a model for all students in school now, how to achieve things. you're not limited. And I think, you know, we need to find a way in which all ex-great sportsmen who've achieved something would give back to society in an organized way, be allowed to go into organizations where they can give talks, have their stories told, and that's the only way we'll keep the attitude going, you know? And for me, I think that's what I just pattern and say. We need to keep these guys in the limelight somehow. We need to have them impart their stories. Douglas should be telling organizations how to run certain aspects of their businesses, because the discipline he has and what he knows about working hard, I'm sure can touch somebody. So I think in Kenya, we just tend to ignore our sports people. Once they retire, nobody really knows what they're doing, nobody cares. But this is what we need to do. Find a way of keeping them in the system, keeping them relevant, getting their stories told and retold. And I believe this festival is very good from that. You know, I'm reading stories, I was watching some of the films and I'm thinking, wow, I can reflect on it, you know, myself personally. So mentorship is part of it. Let's all make sure we keep these guys in the system somewhere.
Thank you very much. And speaking of retired sportsmen who are in the system and who are giving back to society and who have their act together and organize things like the Kenya International Sports Film Festival, I see my chairman over here, who's also the festival director of the Kenya International Sports Film Festival, Mr. Asif Karim himself from Cricket and Tennis, would like to say a few words.
Thank you very much. I thought this was also a very important panel discussion because historically Kenyan sportsmen and sportswomen have suffered. I mean, we watched a documentary yesterday for those who watched the 12-minute. You know, we were celebrating Kenyan Olympians. I mean, by the time we almost got to the end of it, I mean, we almost felt like crying. Mr. Firoz Navroji was here and sitting next to me, and you know, you could see the disappointment and the hurt that he was feeling because he has seen all those stars. You know, he's at a senior age. And when he says, I know all these numbers and is this the state that they are in? And the second point is that what you guys just talked about, that experience is something that is priceless. You cannot buy it. There is no shop or a factory that's going to give you experience. Now, when somebody has earned it, especially these two that are sitting there and many others, this is a must. And what they said is that every company or every organization must use this experience so that we can take our sports to a much higher level. Can you imagine Kenyans are doing so well despite all the challenges? If we really got our act together, we can even do much, much more. So thank you very much for the panelists. I really appreciate it.